news sources get this information? Do they ask every public school student? Do they ask every citizen? Regarding the second question, what questions do they ask? How reliable are these results? Like, can you trust those results? And do you believe them? At some point, you may have to ask some questions to, I think and the thing is, maybe 20 students or 20 people in the center. I don't know how that's quite going to work out, but we're going to see if it can happen still. In this chapter, you will learn some of the methods used by a statistician, which is why you're about to go today and try and gather some number information, or information that is with numbers. But eventually, basically, you're becoming a statistician for a unit. It says here, to justify claims such as these, you will also apply these methods to investigate your own questions, and that's the one of career that they're doing there. Let's see here. In this chapter, you will learn some of the methods used by statisticians to justify what you just read there. Then it says, what do we know? Now, you'll notice, here I'll read these, but it's really the next page we're going to go to, because these are where, like, okay, try to figure out which question you're going to deal with. Is it going to be about career choices, or is it going to be about people, I'm trying to think of a topic in high school that someone would survey to find out how much time students spend playing video games, how much time students spend doing homework. Those type of questions are, if this were just an open unit, those are the type of questions you might create a survey on. But it says here, before you can figure out a way to find information, doesn't show. You need to know what, there it is. You need to know what information you're looking for. Again, it starts with this work with your team and brainstorm stuff. I almost considered cutting off this page, but I still want it in the original one in there. Here are some examples to get your thinking started. What do voters in this town think about raising taxes? If you were just creating a generic question if you were going to make a survey, what percentage of students at your school are vegetarians? Again, it would seem like that'd be a straightforward. You can just ask, hey, are you vegetarian? How many children in this area consider themselves to be multiracial? Interesting question there. Then, of course, it goes with work with your team to brainstorm research questions that might be investigated in a short survey. Next, as a team, discuss your ideas to decide on one research question. That's kind of what you're going to be narrowing down today, based on your clusters. Next sheet I'm going to pass out to you. And then, let's see here, B. Don't like to move. Next, as a team, discuss your ideas and decide on one research. Talk to the team about how you might go about gathering information about your question. Again, all of this is put in there, so they kind of built it up for you, but I want you at least to hear the sheet that I'm going to hand out to you. It was built on these ideas here. Let's see what's on the second page, because eventually there's this thing called bias. When you ask someone a question, you can almost get them to say something that you want them to say by the way you ask the question. So let's look at just what's on the back of this guy, and after we look at that back sheet, then I think we'll transition over to the computer part to start gathering the information that that we want or need. All right, bias in survey question. And of course, a bias is just a way you can kind of make people think your way. Like if I think this group of people are the best, I might ask you the question so that you can either feel like these people are the best and those people are not. It says here, shortly, you will write survey questions. Now this part is true. The plan for this unit is for you to eventually write survey questions for your own investigation. However, before you do that, it's important to understand how the questions that you ask can influence the results. Influence on a study that favors an outcome is called a bias. Now this one, if you had a different color than the color you've been highlighting with, I do want you to highlight this phrase here. Let's see, will you let me write? Yes, you will let me write.
Highlighted a different color?
Yeah, that way it's not just part of one of those, not part of the same thing. This one is actually something separate, a bias. And we all have biases in our lives. I think one thing is better than the other. It's just when you decide yours is right and everybody else is wrong, it changes from a bias, something completely different. Let's see what it says here. Discuss each of the following survey questions with your team for today. Will be that. So look for ways in which the question may contain bias. And I thought about these questions are in a textbook. I thought about just doing the textbook without the answers and have you kind of grapple around. But maybe we'll look at it and see how the answers they gave. Like, oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. Rewrite the question to reduce the bias you found, if you don't want to know assigned questions. And be prepared to share your ideas with the class. So let's look at number 1, or A, in the terms of looking at bias. It says, do teenagers worry about getting poor grades? Before looking at the part that's highlighted, is there anything wrong with that question? Say we were trying to find out some information about students. Is there a bias that do teenagers worry about getting poor grades? So I'll ask the question. Each one of y'all ask you yes, no, and then what do you think? David, do you think teenagers worry about getting poor grades? Says no. Okay. We'll come back to your why after. Jessica, do teenagers worry about getting poor grades? And that actually, let me answer the question as it's written, not the way I asked. I said, do you think? Hey, David, do teenagers worry about getting poor grades? All right, 6 with a no. You said yeah. I didn't know if it made a difference. Marco, do teenagers worry about getting poor grades?
I think yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see what they say in here, what could possibly be wrong with the way that question asked. I don't notice anything. Do teenagers worry about getting good grades? Oh, I see why it could be yes or no. It says possible response. Use of the word poor may bias responders to think that this is something that gets worried about. Possible revision. Do teenagers worry about their grades would be a better question. So do this with a pencil or with something, somehow highlight, not highlight, underline the improved version. Okay, I'm going to underline it that way if someone wasn't here, they can kind of see the improved version. Let me read again why it said that poor grades thing. Do teenagers worry about getting poor grades? They're trying to see if there's a bias in here. Use of the word poor may bias responders to think that this is something that gets worried about. Do teenagers worry about their grades? Yes or no? Do teenagers worry about getting poor grades? That's kind of close. I don't see the total difference right there. Let's see if we can find a pattern. Let's do B. This time I'll start with Marcos because he's, by the time you have to answer that last question, answers are already out there. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Do you support governor's education plan that ensures that students will be more successful in school? The question again, Marcos, and I'm coming to you first. The question is there something wrong with the way that question asked? Is there a bias in it? It says, do you support the governor's education plan that ensures that students will be more successful in school? If someone were asking that question, do you think you would support the plan that makes sure that students are more successful in school? Or no, you wouldn't support the plan?
Yeah.
It says yeah. All right, Jessica, do you support the governor's education plan that ensures that students will be more successful in school? You're not sure. All right, David, let's find out. Do you support the governor's education plan that ensures that students will be more successful in school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's find out what they have to say about that. Every reasonable person wants students to be accepted, Jessica. Every reasonable person wants students to be more successful, but not everyone may agree with the governor's approach. Somehow mark that a part of this is really important. Underline the part that says every reasonable person wants students to be more successful. So the way Jessica said, well, I'm not sure. Like, who's not going to say they want students not to be more successful? So it almost makes it sound like when they come out with the stats, 85% of the population agrees with the governor's plan. Well, no, they didn't necessarily agree with his plan. They agree with the part that, yeah, we want students to be more successful. What is this trying to share as we look at the third one? When it's time to create questions, which you may have to, regarding the career choice that you're going to be looking at closer, probably 2 career choices you're going to be looking at closer, you just got to make sure that when you ask the question, you don't put bias in there. Don't write in such a way that if someone said no, it would seem like something's wrong with them when it might be the question. Let's look at C. Let's see what they have in C. And we won't use them all that way. We can maybe look at some of the other when the other students are here as well. But see, this one goes to Jessica first. Let's see what we got. We did David first. We did Marcos first. All right, Jessica, let's see what this question is asking. Does the frequent occurrence of brutal violence in movies and video games have a negative effect on the young people exposed to them? Does the frequent occurrence of brutal violence in movies and video games have a negative effect on the young people exposed to them? You said yeah? All right, David, you're up next. Hey, does the frequent occurrence of brutal violence in movies and video games have a negative effect on young people exposed to them? That's a yes. All right, go, Marco. Does the frequent occurrence of brutal violence in movies and video games have a negative effect on the people exposed to them? Yeah. We got 3 yeses. Let's see what their issue is with the way that one's written. The use of the words frequent and brutal may bias responders. So let me see if I can read the question out loud without frequent and without brutal and see what it sounds like. Does the occurrence of violence in movies and video games have a negative effect on young people exposed to them? You feel like it's, yeah? Any change for you, David? Or, yeah. And so these things, it's interesting that they're putting out, and the reason I want to expose you to it is, even looking at it, like, okay, so whoever is in charge of this, that's what they think. So that way you might not include the frequent or the brutal. That's just what I want to start off with. So the sheet that you have here goes along in part with what we did last time. If you have your printout, you will probably be able to fill in a portion of it, at least the first 3 parts here that says, what top 3 career clusters did you get? Now, with that question, this career path that we use with the computer, it looks like it's doing the career-wise, so I'm going to ask you all the question. When you did the career-wise, did it put them in order, like find one that was for career-wise, or did it just show out random things, and then we'll look at the front and back of this in just a moment. Find out that question, then we'll just read through the different questions that you're going to be looking at and addressing, so you know which. All right, so let's look at that really fast. With the handout that you have, of course, after career-wise, which we did last time, but if you didn't, once you get the top 3, it's gonna you'll fill those in here. Once you do that, let's see what's the next thing on here. Taking a look at the careers within each of these clusters, jot down any careers that look interesting as well as which career cluster they're in. Jot down any careers that look interesting as well as which career cluster they're in. So again, my goal, I don't know, they didn't put how many you want. I want to get at least, I don't know, 3 or 4. I don't know if that's going to be easy or hard to do. But let's say you chose one, like whatever it is. After, you need to name the career cluster. So if it's, I don't know, mechanic, what career cluster, whatever it is, that and the career cluster. The reason for that is as we go on to the next page, on the back it's going to say here, click on some of the careers that interest you and read about them. If this career seems like something, this should be on the back, you would like to do, and it says highlight on the list you created on the first page. So once you do that listing on that first paragraph here, then you got to go to the back and you got to look at up as much as you can. Then it says, of course, here, and I'm just reading through, out of the 3 career clusters, highlight the 1 or 2 career clusters that have the most interesting careers in them. So there are 2 different things you're doing. You're looking inside of the career clusters, like, oh, that looks interesting. Oh, that looks interesting. You're listing those. Okay, that looked interesting. Oh, it's that cluster. That looked interesting. Oh, it's that cluster. Because when you get down here, out of the 3 career clusters, highlight the 1 or 2 career clusters that have the most interesting careers in them. So again, you got your top 3. Did 1 and 2 have the most in it that you thought was interesting? Is it 2 and 3, or any of the 2? This part down here is where we start looking for numbers. It says here the website you're using is informative, but is limited. let's look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics for more information. That's one of the ones that you actually can go onto the computer today. It says, for the careers you highlighted, find the following information and write what you found below. And it'll be kind of an obvious question here, which is, what does a blank do, and how do you become a blank, whatever career you chose? Then for, you'll probably do this twice. Once on this sheet here, but I gave you some line paper so you can do it at least a second time. But when you do that, there are 4 to 6 additional pieces that you need for this. So what does a blank do? How do you become a blank? And then for this question alone, find 4 to 6 more facts about the career that you think are important. Remember to look at the data from the state you want to work in. And that's another site where you can find that information. So we want to go piece by piece and see what the thing feels like the first time through, so that we can make sure at least we start getting an idea with it. So what is step 1? It's backing up to those careers over here to the cluster. Jessica, I'm not quite sure. So this takes you to the career-wise education, and then from there, go down and click get started. All right, now I'll start it, and I'll bring the video back up to fill in the second page. Also, you will have to go back in to the career-wise, because the handout that we used tells us what the categories are, but we need to investigate those categories to be able to fill out this page right here. So you have to go back in that for those who are absent today. When you get into the site, some of the questions you'll answer, you'll just check off, as it will take you to the end. As you redo this testing, you may find there are 4 parts. Just continue on trying to get to the end of it. See, David, we're recording right now for Osvaldo and the others when it's time. All right, David's looking out for you guys. I just got my top 3 matches. I'm recording, and so I'm going to list these top 3 here. I don't know what the 9 and 10s are. I'm going to ask the students again. Matches to what my interests were. I'm going to put these top 3, and I'm going to list it on that paper right here. Once we list it on this paper here, I'm going to go into each one of these and see if I can find maybe 3 or 4 different matches, or rather careers that sound interesting. List them on this paper, on these lines rather, with the cluster that it belongs to. And when we go to the back of the page, it will give us further instructions. After going on listing the first 3 clusters, and in each cluster finding careers that fall in that cluster that seem interesting. It's possible to get about 12. One of our students did that. Maybe 3 or 4 in each cluster. You list that career title and the number of the cluster from above, if it's cluster 1, 2, or 3. The back is where you get more details, and we're going to attempt to do that. There'll be some highlighting. The highlighting won't be that tricky to do, but it's this website here, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We're going to go to that, and our goal in going there by choosing one of the careers is to fill in this bottom section here. What does a blank do, and how do you become a blank? By listing that, that will kind of give us what we're going to do. We might do this more than once, but just as a dry run. And once we do that, it says here, find 4 to 6 more facts about that career that you think are important. And we might leave that next time. I suppose each class we can't just sit around doing this, but at least we're going to start with the process, because it sounds like getting the information is the longest part. So again, what is it about to do right now? Choose one of those careers. And we will list it as our first. The line paper will allow us to do this more than once, so don't feel like you have to get this one perfect the first time, but at least we get the chances. So using the materials that you had last time when you found your career clusters, it is possible to go just to the website itself, and once you get there, you'll notice here on the side it says career clusters. Once you click on that career clusters, it will bring up the top 3 that you had, or it'll bring them all up. You'll find the top 3. You can click into that, in my case, hospitality and tourism. Once you get in there, you'll click on careers in this cluster. Once you get to the career in this cluster, you can choose 3 or 4 from there, and that's what you will jot down on this front page right here at the bottom when you're following the instructions. I'm going to try and bring up the next website, and then that will kind of be what we'll follow up on next time. This is what the additional website that we're going to look at, where we're getting more information, more of the numbers that will go with it. All right.